5'9", Freestyle 100 with the LA Leakers.
That was just a warm-up right there.
I've been a real nigga since the beginning. I did it without the ridiculous gimmicks or pretentious pretending. I was taught the sky is the limit by way of Finkel and Plymouth, but my only limit is sticking my dick in a chick with a blemish. I speak from a frequency that was meant to uplift the antennas. I sing with the intention to riff with the tennis. My gift is tremendous. I didn't get rich and forget the incentive. I'm never buying into religion or soliciting sinners, my nigga. We attribute the original way we articulate through Brixiate, zipped up on 18-wheelers on interstates. We distribute weight, then matriculate into real estate. Then we assimilate, powder Dylan, probably still a hate. Me and M came through, did the original Renegade. Gave that shit to Jade and spit a gem on stage at Dilla Day. Used to rock the Byzantine, mix a rock with the grenadine. Euthanize the blocks where the Senate ain't tend to intervene. Snitching is a sentence, mixing your linen and denim jeans. Growing up, blowing up was a long shot like drone shots of limousines. In between Greyhounds and Jim McLean. Dome shot a cop with a straight round like Slim and Queen. It's about time we invest in our mental status. I write rhymes for Anunnaki slave ancestors on emerald tablets. Today we raging on Vegas stages with bass guitars. Yesterday was agents chasing us, aprons and mason jars. Planets in line in orbit. My mind absorbs it, defined as orifice. Therefore my soul can glow in divine proportions. You niggas snitching, you need to stop your beefing. Cops crooked wearing swastikas, attending Nazi meetings. Liberace nickel, rock gems, Timbs and Hirachi sneakers. The cane made me able to drop the deacon and go off the deep end. Y'all so weak, I forgot the weekend. Philosophical syllable seamstress speaking in a biblical Fibonacci sequence. When that bar drop, you feel your life pass you by from your far side. I got more poppin' bros than the barge got. I suppose I can pose art like a bar talk. Chart high, especially now that I'm stepping out of that economic apartheid. They left us out of the archives. I'm definitely probably a mark guy. My weapon's out and I'm wetting y'all like I'm weapon out of a shark's eye. Stepping out of a hard top on a 7 mile in Oak Park guy, where several bodies get hog-tied and left inside of the chalk lines. 10 toes standing on granite floors of Mosana Porsche. Hoes snorting Xanax, Roseanne endorse a Gauguin of sorts. Culture vultures know I won't stand for shit I can't enforce. Labels know my name ain't on paper, a dough I can't endorse. Corday, you know you'll always be my little man, of course. Don't let Atlantic destroy your standards playing mechanic horse. Pass the torch and walk away, a hammer throw on my hands of force. Slap Michael Rappaport across the face at the Gansevoort like... That's for me. Drop Alonzo Ball corpse off on Nas porch, dog. That's for the blasphemy. No apathy. Inside the mind of white supremacists with cognitive dissonance. Most compromised position for blacks to be. They cast stones and sticks at the rap throne, the drip and the coin flips. And well, all you gonna get back is a splash from me. I rap ridiculous, crap ubiquitous. I have you niggas swimming where the bass and the fishes is. Axe vicious. Yeah, I piss off the critics. I Master P. The heavy metal was always strapped to me for there was ever a yellow rap. Beef, throwing choppers and run-bys, unloaded them out of Hyundais, loaded shopping in Mumbai, that's my modus operandi. My portfolio expands, income from the slick sands, while the FBI trying to give the M1 to the stick man. Spit them bragging bars, grab your balls, that's a speech from all. They told us money talks, ain't tell us wealth don't speak at all. You a fan of ours or you not a fan of art? I'm a dog ballin' for Los Angeles broads, my cannon bark, jam and spark, edit talk, skip, hold up, skip. Man, this bitch sounding like Shannon Sharp. Don't get your soul thrown to the deacon by way of this weekend's news. For violating the dude like me for publicity and views. Shorty, don't get this 40 in this Colt 45 misconstrued. Cause you new school dudes got Billy D confused. I'd rather watch Floyd May flash at a Gucci store date than work for an asshole who get mad at me asking for a raise. Cop a new cotton picking Aston and grade just for the slaves. You niggas current, nigga was born and raised to destroy a wave. Rather get these youngins direction instead of ignore their ways. Plant trees so all my advancees can enjoy the shade. 60-40 ventures while trying to make 60-40 ways. Paid 40K just for the J's before the yays. Glass door attached to a cast so exquisite foyer. Side door trap through the silver screen, Sidney Poitier. Flash gold on stage, stone face just for the spades. Paid 50K for the stone flakes just for the yays. Back when in 1990 West met the shiny vest, I had Tommy S trying to sign me next. Mozzie Money Lex, dry snitching, y'all probably finding wet. Tell your A&R, NPR that y'all ain't shit without your tiny desk.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm mind blown.
Come on, man.
Yo, Royce the 5'9", LA Leakers.
I literally had Andre Dub come in just to listen to that intro. He's a connoisseur of hip hop. I am a connoisseur of lyricism in hip hop. I am hip hop. I love hip hop. I really want to play that again, but I ain't gonna put you guys through that. Hello, I'm O Speaks, also known as OT Speaks. If you are new here, please like, subscribe, share. I think I'm gonna do a live either tonight or tomorrow on hip hop, just to talk about some stuff. We can maybe play some music, and then I can just put it on private if I get strike or whatever. But I think that would be a really cool topic to talk about, because I'm immersed, and when I hear stuff like that, it's like, oh, you got to be kidding me. Because there's certain rappers that just hit different. When you hear their lyrics, it's like, okay, this is different. This ain't like what I used to. And there was a time where the music complemented the lyrics and the lyricists, not the other way around. Now the music has taken over. So I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just not for me. But right now, if the track is good, the artist doesn't have as much work to do, and I don't believe that. Anyway, back to politics. If you guys want to do that hip hop live, let me know. I'm going to do it. I just don't know when, but I can do it tonight, maybe tomorrow. But I want to talk about that. Like I said, we can play what we think are the best lyricists, and we can talk about that. I just think it would be a really cool conversation to have. I haven't done that on this channel before. Maybe I could talk about how I got into hip hop. You guys can talk about how you got into it, because I grew up in it. And I used to do graffiti in the subways, like everything. I'm listen. Anyway, topic of today's live is the left is continuing. Or actually, I'll just give the actual title. Continuing violence from the left. Are Joe Biden's pardons void? Happy Liberation Day. I think in a couple of hours, Trump is going to do a press conference. If not him, somebody who represents him. They're going to talk about what Liberation Day means. They're going to talk about the tariffs, and hopefully we get really, really, really good information. And I'm going to cover some of it today on this live. Let's see, because I have him talking toward the end of the live. I have him talking about his tariffs and some of the successes that they've already had just through the threat and conversation of tariffs. But I want to start off with the autopen. And I don't know, this story came out about a week or two ago, and it kind of just disappeared. And I don't understand why it disappeared. Do you guys remember the autopen story? It's really, really interesting, because there's a legal argument that I hope gets made, but I haven't heard yet. And I want to talk about the autopen and what that's all about. And back in July, when Biden first sent out the tweet saying he wasn't going to run again, I was like, no. And some of you guys were in here when I was like, I don't believe it. I won't believe it until I hear him say it. And the reason I was saying that is because he didn't verbalize that. He actually verbalized the exact opposite of what the letter said. And I was like, I'm not buying it. I had Mel Dub in here. I think even Andre was in here. I know G. Will was in here. And I was like, I don't believe that he's stepping down. And I want to hear it out of his mouth, because literally his representatives days before were saying, no, he's running. And out of nowhere, a tweet comes out, and we just took that for granted. And I want to talk about, actually, I'll just play me talking about that. What's going on, Roll Rich? What's going on, G. Will? Andre Dub. Free J is in here. What's going on, everybody? So I want to say why I believe right now that autopen is a much bigger story. But before I do that, I want to show you guys what I was saying back then, because it didn't make sense, and what's happening right now doesn't make sense. So let me go here, and here. So that was July 22nd.
We seen during the last debate, he was live tweeting, which we know wasn't him. So I ask again, who tweeted that? And why are we accepting that as it? We were already told that the letter was written for him. So unless I hear it from his mouth, I cannot accept a tweet. I don't care about the letter. I don't care what the letter says. I don't care who signed it. We could say he signed it, I guess. But there's some problems with this, with accepting this. And again, my conspiratorial tinfoil hat tells me that I don't know if he's agreed to it yet, because as of last Thursday, he was insisting he was going to keep running. What happened over the weekend? Why did he say that he insisted that he was going to run 2 or 3 days after they said that he wasn't going to run? What was he trying to do? I don't understand. Why would he insist that he was going to keep running after it was decided that he wasn't? Why not go dark then? Why go dark over the weekend and then Sunday the letter comes out and make it official and we don't hear it from him? I don't like this. I don't like it. And until I hear him say it, I'm not sold that he's agreed. And if he hasn't agreed, again, conspiracy. Who put that out? Because if anything happens where he says, no, I am going to run, that means we now have, all right, again, conspiracy. We have a potential coup attempt via Twitter. This definitely has never happened, but I need to hear the President of the United States say, I am stepping away from this campaign. Because if he doesn't say it, we know he doesn't run social media. We know he didn't write that letter. I don't like this. This is crazy to me that it's been all news, 24 hours, all night. You wake up at 3 a.m. this morning, they're talking about it. Why? Who? I need to understand.
President Trump. All right, so now that's what I was saying back then. And again, I'm going to tie this into this whole autopen thing because this should be the biggest story in the news cycle right now, over everything. And I'll explain.
Trump has declared Biden's controversial last-minute pardons as void, vacant, and of no further force or effect. Well, Dr. Anthony Fauci and January 6th committee chief Liz Cheney were among those who got blanket immunity in the final moments of Biden's presidency. But the outgoing president, shockingly, did not sign the paperwork. Members of his team instead used an autopen, adding a digital rendering of the president's signature. And some legal experts say that means the pardons are literally not worth the paper they were apparently not written on. Well, the Conservative Heritage Foundation studied a trove of documents signed on behalf of the former president, and they pointed to this interview with House Speaker Mike Johnson as evidence of a much graver problem.
Now, this is my concern. It's not the autopen, because apparently a lot of politicians, a lot of judges use this autopen. I'm not as concerned about that. I'm more concerned about what you're going to hear Speaker Johnson say.
Real quickly, Mr. President, can I ask you a question? I cannot answer this from my constituents in Louisiana. Sir, why did you pause LNG exports to Europe? Like, I don't understand, you know, liquefied natural gas is in great demand by our allies. Why would you do that? Because you understand, we just talked about Ukraine. You understand you're fueling Vladimir Putin's war machine because they got to get their gas from him, you know. And he looks at me stunned with this, and he said, I didn't do that. I said, Mr. President, yes, you did. It was an executive order, like, 3 weeks ago. He goes, no, I didn't do that. And he's arguing with me. I said, Mr. President, respectfully, could I go out here and ask your secretary to print it out? We'll read it together. You definitely did that. And he goes, oh, you talk about natural gas. Yes, sir. He said, no, you misunderstand. He said, what I did is I signed this thing we're gonna conduct a study on the effects of LNG. I said, no, you're not, sir. You paused it. I know. I have the export terminals in my state. I talked to those people this morning. This is doing massive damage to our economy, national security. It occurred to me, Barry, he was not lying to me. He genuinely did not know what he had signed. And I walked out of that meeting with fear and loathing because I thought, we're in serious trouble. Who is running the country? Like, I don't know who put the paper in front of him, but he didn't know.
Well, everyone knows that President Biden was in fact not as sharp as attack as many claimed. There's nothing new there. Why I think this matters is that many people on all sides are looking very closely to just how little control the former president had. Even CNN's Jake Tapper, no friend of MAGA, is writing a book on what he calls the cover-up of Biden's decline. I think a lot more will come out about that. And the Democrats are already in freefall. A new CNN survey says their popularity has plunged to its lowest level in recorded history. Dave Smith.
before they talk about it, think about what Speaker Johnson just said. An executive order was written and the president didn't know that he signed it, which goes back to the auto pen. Did he know that they were going to use his signature? This is why this story is massive. And Trump talked about the pardons, which is huge, but I'm more concerned with who was running the country for 4 years, what was done, and we all called him a puppet, made fun of him, weekend at Bernie's, weekend at Joe's, ha ha ha, who's running the country, who's running the country. But executive orders and pardons, blanket pardons were signed. Did he have anything to do with those? Or did they just pay some random staffer to say, yeah, I'll get it done? And we'll date it back to January of 2014. This story should be massive. And it's been 2 weeks now, week and a half, 2 weeks now. I've been waiting to hear if anybody talks about it. No one's talking about it. Anthony Fauci was pardoned dating back to 2014. Hunter Biden, no, he wasn't 2014. He was dated back, I think, to 2020, or whenever the pandemic started. Maybe before that. Hunter Biden pardoned all the way back to 2014. All of these people were just given this blanket immunity for things that they may have done. Why did they need pardons if they weren't brought up on any charges? Liz Cheney, the entire January 6th committee, and I got something out of that. I'm going to show you guys something on January, good old January 6th later on. They lied about everything, and then they got away with it. Possibly, this is my speculation here, because I do lean to the right, so I want you guys to know I'm not. This part right here is not news. The story is the news. I'm giving my opinion right now. I don't think he knows most of the executive orders that he signed. I think they use autopen. I don't even think he was in the room most of the time that they were signing these things. And I think that this is just what it is. What's going on, Dantana? But the problem is, will anyone be held responsible or accountable for this? Because I don't understand how that's not treason. Because the American people supposedly elected Joe Biden, and he was not running the country. So who was? Unelected bureaucrats, appointees. So right now you hear them complaining and crying and whining, oh, Elon Musk, he wasn't elected, he wasn't elected. Who signed these executive orders that Joe Biden signed with autopen? Was he even in the room? Was he consulted? Did he fully understand what he was signing or what he said, go ahead and sign? I don't think so. So let's listen to them talk about it a little bit.
Joe Biden's pardons may not apparently be worth the paper he may not have written his signature on. Bombshell.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's, you know, I have no legal expertise in the question of whether these auto signatures are legitimate or are not legitimate, and it's kind of an interesting legal question, I guess. But I think you hit the nail on the head in your opening there, Pierce. It's like none of this would ever. There's no way you could make this claim short of the fact that we all know the former sitting president was so senile. And this is, you know, I mean, these are the type of conversations every single political commentator, including the four of us here and everyone you know, these are the type of conversations we were having privately throughout this whole the whole last year at least of the Biden administration. I mean, when you're at this level of you know, mental decline, how much can everybody around you just abuse that? I mean, Joe Biden actually seemed at a state, at least toward the end of his administration, where a staffer could probably just tell him, oh no, you already said that yesterday. And he'd kind of have to go, yeah, I guess I did. And then I guess the bigger question than that, which I think really does rise above a legal question, is just how outrageous it is that the outgoing president would pardon Fauci. I mean, all of us know that in this whole debacle, which, by the way, this doesn't have to be a partisan issue because Donald Trump is very implicated in this, too. He was the president of the United States of America through all of 2020. He's the one who kept Fauci on the job through the year of lockdowns. But the fact that Fauci was covering up the fact that his own or subsidiaries of his own agency had funded the lab where the whole thing came from. And then they covered that up and they accused everybody of being a horrible racist or conspiracy theorists if they brought up the theory of where this virus originated from. And then to impose lockdowns and mandates and just lie to the American people the whole way through is one of the gravest crimes that was ever committed by the U.S. government against the American people.
Ever.
And the idea that a president would give out blanket immunity for those crimes is so appalling that essentially I'm saying any way that we could undo these pardons, I support it. But it does bring up a fascinating question, and one that we talked about on a previous episode of this show, Piers. Yeah. There's questions about the Joe Biden resignation letter itself. It was such a bizarre way for a sitting president to announce a couple weeks before the convention that he wouldn't be seeking re-election. He did it through like a letter, not an address to the American people, and then he threw his endorsement to Kamala Harris through a tweet. This is just so bizarre. It's like,
and that's why I played what I played at the beginning, because I was on it. That same day, I was on it. I went live to talk about it. Like, this is not good. This can't be real. I was on it. So to hear them talking about it now makes me feel good, because it's like, am I the only person who's asking this question? Because even Mel was like, nah, it's over. You know, I told you they were going to do this. I'm like, no, but he didn't do it. And I felt like I was going crazy because I'm trying to understand, like, is this how it is now in 2024, 2025, where you can just announce things like this on X and people accept it? You don't have to say it verbally. You just tweet. To me, that was fascinating.
Out of a crazy fiction novel or something. But I'm excited that people are looking into this.
You know, you're so right about the Biden announcement. I was in New York, and I saw it on X, right? It just suddenly popped up that the president of the United States was effectively quitting. And I was like, whoa, wait,
and Pierce,
what?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Just one more quick announcement. I believe I was on your show in New York City the day after this happened.
Yes, you were.
But also, it was a Sunday. That Sunday morning on the Sunday morning news shows, surrogates of the Biden campaign were going on and saying, what are you guys talking about? He's not dropping out. It's Trump versus Biden. Which one do you want? And then later that day, the president announces in this mysterious way. So bizarre.
And it took them, I think it took him a week and a half before he actually said something about it. It was weird. The whole thing was weird, but this is why, to me, this autopen story should be examined. Not because autopen is illegal. I don't know that. That's for the courts to figure out. But because if you have the ability to sign something for somebody, and that somebody is completely out of it, I mean, as senile as he is, how were we not examining this stuff closer? Like, well, wait a minute. Should he be using autopen? Maybe we need to watch him sign these things so that we know he's the one doing it. We don't know what laws were passed or executive orders were signed. We don't know what laws that he did put through after getting it from Congress. We don't know what he was doing. He took more vacation days than anyone and any president ever. He wasn't running the country, and instead of looking into it, they're focusing more on Le Pen. I'm focusing on, if you have the ability to forge someone's signature, why wouldn't you do it if you're just an evil, anti-American, power-hungry scumbag? Because that's what I think happened. I think staffers were like, oh, we can literally pass anything we want. We just have to make sure it's legal. And he doesn't even know. So when he gets asked about it, he doesn't know. He's like, and he'll just agree to it so he doesn't look crazy because he doesn't remember anything. I'll get into that in a second.
President of the United States for 4 years was using an autopen to sign off on a number of things, including pardons and bills. Is this an issue to you?
Not in the macro. I'm going to disappoint some of my right-wing friends when I say that. I don't mind if presidents use autopens for certain things, so long as the president knows that the autopen is being used for those certain things. And that is the question that President Trump is trying to drum up and trying to get an answer to, and perhaps get the media, get the courts to look into this. I laughed out loud when Caitlin Collins was trying to at the White House press briefing and asking, does the president really think that Joe Biden used an auto pen, and what difference does that make, et cetera, et cetera.
It's a huge
and
difference.
that's not the point. The point is for Caitlin Collins to go find out whether or not President Biden knew that his signature was being used in such ways. And there's a real easy way to do that. You just call him up in Delaware and figure it out and get an answer on the record as to whether or not he knew. If he knew, I don't think it's a huge deal.
Have we seen Biden? When's the last time you saw Joe Biden? And maybe not saw him. When's the last time you heard him speak? Would he be able to answer this question now? Is that why they kept him in office after he resigned from the candidacy, which made no sense? Mel Dubb pointed this out several times. If he's not capable of finishing the candidacy, and he's not capable of standing trial like was determined, how is he capable of running the country for 5 more months? How is that possible? Why did they keep him in? Could it be so they can do more of this stuff? So that at the end they can pardon all of the people who lied for 4 years, longer than that. Fauci was lying longer than 4 years. But he's got crimes going back to the AIDS epidemic. This dude, why and how do you determine Fauci, Liz Cheney, all of these people who got caught lying or withholding evidence amid a congressional hearings? If they weren't charged with crimes, how do you pardon them? How do you do a preemptive pardon? And again, it's not the auto pen. It's the fact that somebody had the ability to use it without him being there. That's where I have an issue with.
If he did it, that becomes the big question, and that's where the courts would need this. Probably the Supreme Court would need to jump in and decide whether or not these pardons and some of these last-minute executive orders are even legit.
I think there's two issues at play here. One is the issue of Joe Biden's competency, and did his staff know? Were they fully aware that he was incompetent, that he was unable to even affix his own signature to a document with any mental acuity, and they had to use a machine? Because if that's the case, the American public were duped for some period of time, 4 years or less. And so that's a major issue. But the second part of this is, I'm going to disagree with you. I think it does matter. It doesn't matter if you're sending a letter out. You know, it's, for example, when troops die, the president sends a personal letter to each individual family. And so George Bush was famous for not only signing the letter, but writing in the column. He would write some personal notes. Gosh, you know, I'm really sorry about this and that. He would look up things about the individual numbers. Barack Obama used an auto pen. Now, it's a ceremonial item. The letter is a ceremonial item. But the fact that Barack Obama used an auto pen, I remember being shocked at the time, thinking, wow, these are people that literally gave their life, and you don't even have the time to sign your name. So that was shocking, but it's not illegal. It's a ceremonial piece of paper. I would disagree, however, if you have a pardon or you have a bill that was passed, the Constitution requires the signature of the President of the United States, his actual signature, not a facsimile, not a machine doing it for him. The president has to sign off on that item. So this is where the legal aspect, there needs to be precedent. So this has to be tried. There's no doubt about it. Supreme Court at some point is going to have to decide whether or not the founding fathers intended for the signature to be there, because there were no machines to sign for you. They didn't say it's okay to use your stamp. They said signature. There were no facsimiles back then. So the only thing that they would do before those times, was stamp or put their seal on something. Well, now they do the seal and the signature. And if they said that he needs to put a signature on there, I think it's safe to assume that they meant he needs to sign it. But this needs to be gone through the courts. It has to be. It has to be, for the very reasons and what they're saying. It's one thing to sign on documents, like he said, that are ceremonial,
or if you're, writing a congressional memo to some, or a memo to Congress, or a memo to the people. That's one thing. It's another thing when you're doing law and you're doing an executive order. How do you not? Why would you not sign that? There's not that many. Why can't he sign those? And I think that's where we're going to have to. They're going to have to try this. They have to, because it needs to be interpreted, and that's the judicial branch's job to interpret. What did they mean when they wrote signature and that the president has to have his signature? Did they intend? Because again, we're interpreting. Did they intend that it mean just anything saying that he agrees with it or signs off on it? Or do they mean he needs to sign it? They have to interpret this, because we're now seeing the negative impacts of what could happen, because there's no way, in my opinion, which I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a judge, but there's no way for them to say that, well, in the future, they're going to come up with a machine that signs it for you, and that'll be okay. The judges need to come up with that. Thank you, Paul. What's going on, sir?
I think you can make a legal argument, a very strong legal argument, that anything that was not signed by the president, if there was a bill that went into effect, but he didn't really sign it, a machine did, that bill is null and void. I think there is a huge can of worms here.
Well, I mean, let's hash that out in the courts. There are differences between correspondence, pieces of legislation, pardons, etc. I think Jimmy Carter pardoned tens of thousands of people, after the Vietnam War. How are you going to make him do that?
That's true.
And I mean, that's got to be a facsimile. He's just not going to. I don't think we want our presidents, if it's going to be such in high quantity, Tim, I just don't know if I want my president sitting there behind a desk doing that.
And maybe that's what the courts come up with. If there's 1,000 documents, okay, now we're starting to get into a situation where, all right, well, maybe we can figure something else out. But what we can't do is allow executive orders, the final signature on laws, be just some machine signing off on it, because we don't even know if the president was in the room. You really are opening up a new can of worms. Markets are nervous. A lot going on. Elon leaving Doge soon. Tesla stock up. The market nervous. Yep. We knew this was coming. This is all a good thing. It's a good time to buy Tesla, though. I can tell you that.
In such high quantity. But if you're doing it without, one of the big questions is, if the staff knew that the president didn't know or wasn't aware or even didn't agree, what's the penalty for the staff?
If you recall the last year of Biden's presidency,
prison
denial after denial after denial that he was incompetent. No. Even the media, the left-wing media, was saying he's at the top of his game. I met with him. He's as sharp as he's ever been.
What would Robert Hur say about this, right? He put in his deposition notes that the president clearly wasn't with it. And clearly had a poor recollection of events as it related to his classified files situation. So, would Robert Hur have something to say about this? Is there a way to get Biden under oath in a deposition, format? But I think that's
Robert Hur. Do you guys remember him? He's the man who determined that Joe Biden was not capable of standing trial. He's the one who said, hey, I asked this guy birthdays. He didn't know birthdays. He didn't remember anything. So this is a competency issue. And yes, he's no longer in office, but clearly what he did then is impacting us today, because we now have people who are roaming the streets who are responsible for the deaths of millions of people. Like Fauci got up in front of Congress and said it did not happen from the Wuhan lab. He lied. And the whole time he knew that was a lie. So these people, their response, that dude is evil. I don't care what anybody says. I really don't. What I do care about is people lost their lives. And if he were trying to do good, I would have no issue, because you could say, hey, sometimes when we try, it's not enough. But he was actively trying to hide something that could have helped people. The ivermectin, the mask nonsense, the mental health issues that were going on as a result of his leak, his bioweapon leak. It's his. Do you guys understand? When you're doing those kind of things, you are trying to create new weapons of war. And that one just so happened to get out, and it impacted the entire world. Billions, and if not more, maybe trillions of dollars of damage to the world. And he's over there at Dodgers games. If anyone were a candidate for being under a prison, it's him. It's him. Like, I don't, instead of holding him accountable, they went after Joe Rogan. Like, this dude is out roaming. I don't care how old he is. We didn't care how old those people from the concentration camps were. If you were a guard there and you're 100 years old, you're standing trial. You don't deserve to be at home chilling after what you did. This dude is solely, I won't say solely, he's solely responsible for deceiving the world on what happened. Millions of people lost their grandparents and couldn't go to the hospital. Kids started going crazy. There's a developmental age where you need socialization. He took that from children. 2 years of their developmental lives were taken away, and their social skills were not being built because they were forced to go on camera from home. Some parents weren't able to work. Other parents had to work, but they still had their children at home. So how do you do that? Churches weren't able to be like, there was so much going on, and this guy was pardoned. No funerals, no weddings. We had, I don't remember if it was during that, I'm pretty sure it was during that time, we had to watch a wedding on camera because we couldn't go in. Like, this is not good. Like, this man and his advice, his professional advice, his expertise, as he's telling everybody, you need to follow the science. This man would not say that BLM should not gather as they're destroying the nation. He said you shouldn't go to church. You need to shut down, California shut down restaurants, any kind of event, no concerts, no comedy shows, no nothing. But when he was asked in Congress, I think it was Ted Cruz who asked him, what about BLM events? He said, well, I can't speak on that. Really? Oh, I that's not my call. You say it about everything else. You tell us everything else we shouldn't do. You made us stand 6 feet apart at the grocery store when they were limiting people from going in. You had to, they drew lines on the floor, and you had to stand here, let's see, here, and the other person had to stand here. And if they went across here, all of a sudden you have some little weirdo yelling at you, that's not 6 feet. This was all Fauci. There's no such thing as 6 feet rule in real life, in real medicine. That doesn't do anything. Those masks aren't for that. They had zero effect. It didn't matter. It was all, it's the biggest psyop that was ever pulled off in the world, in world history. And this guy got away with it. And then when he got caught lying, he just told Rand Paul, you don't know what you're talking about. Rand Paul's a doctor. He knew exactly what he was talking about. And when he had the proof of it, he just denied it. And then other senators would jump in and help him, cover for him. He's the biggest criminal in this country's history. And he's now walking free. I think he's married. He's got a wife. He's just chilling. Multi-millionaire, can do whatever he wants. Millions of people dead around the world because his bioweapons, one of his bioweapons labs that was not supposed to be funded, Obama put a stop to it. So what did he do? He rerouted the money to keep funding a biowar. And somehow, Joe Biden, with an autopen, said, hey, don't worry about it. I got you. Really? That's what we're doing. What's going on, True?
It's got to require third-party litigation or a third-party investigation from the media.
President Donald Trump with a shocking claim on social media, saying President Biden's preemptive pardons for members of the House January 6th committee investigating the attacks on the Capitol are, quote, void, vacant, and of no further force or effect. Why? The president claiming Biden used a device known as an autopen to sign them.
Who was signing all this stuff by autopen? Who would think you signed important documents by autopen?
The evidence for that claim appearing to come from a recent Heritage Foundation post on Twitter, showing differences in Biden's signatures in the Federal Register.
You don't use autopen. It's, number one, it's disrespectful to the office. Number two, maybe it's not even valid.
President Biden has not publicly remarked on Trump's post, and a spokesperson didn't reply to a request for comment from NBC News. But experts say even if he did use an autopen, that wouldn't make his orders illegitimate.
The text of the Constitution in Article 1 refers to the president signing it. It doesn't say literally whether that must be, by his physical hand or not.
How else were they signing things in the Declaration of Independence, 1776? How else were they signing things, sir? But to his point, it doesn't say it. So that's up to our judges to say, this is what we believe, and we are interpreting this law. What other way was there to sign anything? They had rings, and they would stamp like this. They would stamp the wax. But it didn't say that. It said signature. So this needs to be litigated. It has to be. It has to be. So that this is going forward, the left or even the right, they just go ahead and keep picking candidates that are completely unaware of their surroundings. And then they use this auto pen to sign off whatever they want. What's to stop them?
2005 Department of Justice memo explicitly stating that a president does not need to personally sign bills and that the president may direct, quote, a subordinate to affix the president's signature to such a bill, for example, by autopen.
The Office of Legal Counsel issued an opinion that autopen signatures are okay, but that doesn't have the same force as, say, a court actually making that determination or Congress, say, weighing in on the issue.
But what exactly?
That's the other thing before they continue. Sorry. Congress can step in right now and make a law and say, okay, it has to be this or it has to be that. They can actually lay out a certain amount of documents. Okay, if it's over 100 documents, we're not going to have the president, signing documents all day. If it's over a certain amount of documents, yes, you can use autopen, but the president has to be present, plus a witness, something like that. They need to come up with something, or leave it to the judges. But somebody's got to put an end to this because this is dangerous. This is dangerous to our national security. Again, it's one thing. What's going on, Kiss? It's one thing. Again, like I said earlier, signing off on regular, letters to Congress or memos or even on the White House website, signing whatever. It's one thing doing a regular document or a ceremonial document. It's another thing when you're talking about laws and executive orders. There's not too many to sign. Congress can't get anything passed anyway. You're not signing that much. But this is it needs to be fixed. So this is what they're talking about when they talk about the auto pen.
It is an auto pen. Put simply, it's a device that uses a pen to recreate signatures or handwriting, even if the, quote, signer is not in the room. President Obama apparently became the first president to use an auto pen to sign an actual bill when he extended the Bush-era Patriot Act while he was in France, a move that caused a bit of a stir at the time.
Use of the auto pen must be directed directly by the president.
But it's been used in the White House for decades, even centuries, for things like written communications and autograph requests.
And that's fine. If it's an autograph, I don't have an issue with that. I don't care. It should devalue the whatever they're signing, but whatever. That's completely different. I'm not worried about that. And I'm not really challenging the legality of the auto pen. I'm saying Congress needs to get together and say there needs to be a witness. There needs a person who's supposed to sign. If they're not able to sign, maybe he broke his hand. Maybe he's just old. Maybe he doesn't want to sign 100 documents. You need to put a limit on how many documents need to be need to be available before the AutoPen is okay. And I think that would solve this whole issue. But does the left want to solve this issue? I don't think they do. Because to whose point was it? To Paul's point, it's easier to cheat that way. Why would you fix something that they just took advantage of? They literally just pardoned people that should be in jail. Why would you fix that? I don't know. So now, on from that to, I think it's Tesla. Let's see.
So is
yes. So why is the left mad? And this is a congresswoman, and she's going to explain right now what the left is really mad at.
the Doge program targeted at these bureaucrats?
Yes.
And so what can you expect?
Well, let's look at the Department of Education. The Federal Department of Education has a budget of about $280 billion a year. Less than 25% goes to educating our students.
Okay. And Mel went over this. I want to go back a little bit so you can hear what she just said. Because all the money that's going into the Department of Education, none of it goes to the actual kids. I'm saying none of it, I'm exaggerating. But listen to the percentage. Less than 20% goes to the actual kids. So why do we need a Department of Education? The left is going crazy right now over this still. That's insanity.
What can you expect?
Well, let's look at the Department of Education. The Federal Department of Education has a budget of about $280 billion a year. Less than 25% goes to educating our students.
Less than 25% of $268 billion per year goes to the actual students. So why is this thing needed? It does serve purposes. Mel did a whole live on it. I'm going to put that in the description for you guys, because he did do a really good live stream on this, and that's actually put his link in this chat right now. If you don't follow Mel, I think you should. And that's just personal preference. The people who I do watch and frequent their channels, I put in my description. But he did a great live on this topic. Let's see. There you go. That's his name on YouTube. But less than 25% of $268 billion a year goes to the students.
So where does the other $220 billion go? It goes to
I
a
don't know where.
bureaucracy. It goes to a consultant, and that consultant then donates money back to the Democrats, and then it goes to a different consultant, and then it goes to an NGO. I mean, it is money laundering and money churning at its absolute best, and you can look at almost every single agency and you will find it. So the brilliance of Doge isn't that he's going in and cutting spending. He doesn't have the authority to do that. We're the ones that have the authority to do that. What I want him to do is come up with a report, go through agency by agency by agency, identify every single program that we should not be funding, put a number attached to it. We slap a preamble on the front of that report, and we say that every single agency is having their budget cut by X amount as shown in the attached report, and none of those programs can go forward from here on out.
Why is that a problem? He's literally finding waste, and the left is going crazy. You heard the congresswoman say he doesn't have power to shut anything down. He's putting together reports and sending it to them. They're the final judges because they make the laws. That's it. So why the hate? You can like him, dislike him, but what does that have to do with what he's doing? And then here's the announcement of Trump when he got rid of the department. Well, he's not even getting rid of it, really, honestly. But this is Trump's announcement on the Department of Education.
Today we take a very historic action that was 45 years in the making. In a few moments, I will sign an executive order to begin eliminating the Federal Department of Education once and for all.
Well, Congress has to act to eliminate the department, so it can't be done by a presidential order. But if you look at, a lot has been said about the K through 12 impact. Most of the money that flows through the Department of Education flows through higher education. And if you look at the last several years, there's been huge inefficiency in the Department of Education, despite the fact that all that money flows through. The federal financial aid process was delayed. There it was riddled with errors. The same was true for a mandatory reporting requirement that applied to all colleges and universities.
So I zoomed in on this just so you guys can see. This is the average math scores for 9-year-olds from 1980 to well, I was going to say till now, but to 2024. It hasn't changed at all. But the money, the darks, all the dark stuff on the bottom, that's the actual money. So the money has skyrocketed since 1980, and there's been zero results. The average reading scores for 90-year-old, or for 9-year-olds, I said 90. For 9-year-olds is the lighter blue line. There's no, they've gained nothing since 1980. And this source is the Treasury Department. I don't know if you guys can see that on the top. Let's see. Treasury Department on the very top left. This is the spending versus the test scores. What are we doing? It's a complete waste of money. The scores have not changed. And here we have all these teachers and teachers unions and people complaining, we need this, we need it. Yeah, you need it. The Democrat Party needs it because they fund you. You heard her say they funnel money. This is money laundering. It's all a money laundering scheme. We found out the same thing with USAID. They fund everything else.
I think there's a legitimate policy argument to be had whether or not the state should have more control over K through 12. But if you look at the higher education system, there has been huge inefficiency, and I think steps had to be taken.
So on the United States Institute of Peace, this is...
All right, so this is another organization. We're done with the Department of Education. The United States Institute of Peace. Let me see it. I'm going to pull this up real quick, just so you guys know who these people are. Because this is a trip. Hold on. I want you to see this first. Let's see. All right, let me make it bigger. This is the United States Institute of Peace, right? What do they do? The United States Institute of Peace promotes research, policy analysis, education, and training on international peace and conflict resolution in an effort to prevent and resolve violent conflicts and promote post-conflict stability. You guys see how many organizations are in the government that their sole purpose is war and the results of war and regime change and how we handle things after the fact? Why do we need, this is a whole organization. This is not much different from USAID. Why do we need both of them? There's a lot of redundancies in the government. And again, this is, hold on. You don't think I'm just making stuff up. This is an official website. Up here it says official website, the United States government. This is a .gov. Why do we need another organization? Hold on. Why do we need another organization for that? I don't understand. So listen to what happened and listen to what this lady's saying. She's talking about that organization.
a little bit wild. I understand the old president refused to leave after he was removed from his position. He barricaded himself in his offices, had to be escorted out by police, left the building without Wi-Fi, telephones, elevators, and more, and is now telling media that Doge broke in and illegally removed him. So can you comment on this sequence of events and specify, did Doge...
So again, let me go back to the beginning. This is the president of the United States Institute of Peace. And what he did right before when Doge showed up.
There has been huge inefficiency, and I think steps had to be taken.
So on the United States Institute of Peace, this is a little bit wild. I understand the old president refused to leave after he was removed from his position. He barricaded himself in his offices, had to be escorted out by police, left the building without Wi-Fi, telephones, elevators, and more, and is now telling media that Doge broke in and illegally removed him. So can you comment on this sequence of events and specify, did Doge illegally enter?
Back in the day, that's called going postal. there was a trend, and it just so happened to be U.S. postal workers, a federal agency, who would go crazy and well, I could say, and shoot up their post offices. So that phrase "going postal" came from that. People would go crazy, and they're like, "What is it with post office workers?" And when they lose their jobs, they end up going in and doing stuff like this. This guy barricaded himself and tried to sabotage the whole department because he got fired. What do you have invested in that? Why would you go that far?
I'm really glad you brought this up, Mary. We were made aware of this story by individuals at Doge, at Elon Musk's team, and also at the State Department who were unable to access this building. And it became very clear that there was a concerted effort amongst the rogue bureaucrats at the United States Institute of Peace to actually physically barricade themselves essentially inside of the building to prevent political appointees of this administration who work at the direction of the President of the United States to get into the building. There was a piece in the Daily Caller, thank you for sharing the truth on this, about what happened. Staff contacted the MPD in an attempt to prevent Doge personnel from entering. They barricaded the doors. They also disabled telephone lines, internet connections, and other IT infrastructure within the building. They distributed flyers internally, encouraging each other to basically prevent these individuals from accessing the building.
Andre Dub, I think they need some IT help over there, some cybersecurity help. She really is, Paul Thomas. I think they may need your help over there. Everything seems to have been sabotaged. I'm sure they put in some malware or something. This is insanity. This is what they call protesting. Okay, this is a government agency. This is your money, people. Your money goes towards this organization, and they're sabotaging internet and cutting off all communication and barricading themselves in. Like, this is insanity.
Use this to say this is what Doge and this administration is facing. It's a resistance from bureaucrats who don't want to see change in this city. President Trump was elected on an overwhelming mandate to seek change and implement change, and this is unacceptable behavior.
So now we're moving to another wasteful human being. Democrat squad firebrand Cori Bush's husband was charged with $20,000 in COVID wire fraud. He was charged among other things too. So let's listen. Let's learn about Cori Bush and her husband, shall we?
Unabashed defund the police Democratic Congresswoman Cori Bush of Missouri. New records show her paying tens of thousands of her campaign dollars to her Army vet husband for private security, on top of payments to other security services. Bush has doubled down in recent years and become one of the most vocal advocates of the defund the police movement in Congress.
The irony of defund the police is that she wants to take away your security at home and get rid of police who react to crime, but she'll spend, I think they said 200,000, 180,000 or 170,000 to 200,000 was spent during her term to her husband. She paid her husband this. It started out with like 17,000 and 20 grand. And over her full term in Congress, I think she was a House representative. Yeah, she wasn't. No way she was a senator. She paid her own husband between $170,000 and $200,000 for security. I mean, as a husband, I'm automatically my wife's security. I didn't know I could get paid. But she paid her husband this $200,000 over her full term. She paid him that much money for security while saying that you don't need police in your neighborhood. You get the irony there? Do you see what is wrong with these people? And she was the one who stuck with it even after Ilhan Omar and AOC and who was the other one? Ayanna. I can't remember the other one's name. The other squad members, even after they were like, okay, we probably should pull away from this defund the police thing, she stuck with it.
One of the few Democrats now who still says, let's defund
the police. Are you worried at all that that could hurt some of your colleagues going into the midterm elections?
See, the thing about defund the police is we have to tell the entire narrative. People hear defund the police, but you know what they'll say? Say reallocate, say divest, say move.
You say reallocate, divest, move. You're the one who's saying defund. That means get rid of funding. So she's now telling other people who are interpreting her words literally, because she's saying it, and she said it over and over and over and over. She's telling other people, well, why don't you say divest or remove or reallocate? You say it. It's your term. You're the one promoting it. Now you want us to re-articulate it for you?
But it's still the same thing. We can't get caught up on the words. People spend more time focusing on the word defund than they spend on caring and addressing the problem of police violence.
New filings from Bush's campaign shows that between April and June of this year, it paid Bush's husband, Courtney Merritt's, more than $17 grand for security services, including wage expenses for employees. That's on top of $12 grand paid earlier in the year. Bush has also paid another security company $62,000 this year. She was confronted on her use of private security a couple years ago when campaign records showed she spent $70,000 on private security. 2 of her personal bodyguards were active duty sheriff's deputies for the city of St. Louis. Sadly for them, the deputies were forced to turn in their badges after they were caught moonlighting for Bush's campaign without permission from the sheriff's department.
I'm going to make sure I have security because I know I have had attempts on my life and I have too much work to do. There are too many people that need help right now.
So she said she needs security because there's been attempts on her life. Did she ever live in the hood? Where I grew up, that's a daily occurrence. So our security, who we call if something goes wrong, would be the police. We actually used to call for more police in the area as a preventative measure so people can see, so there's actual deterrent. If there's more police around, less crime can be done because the people will get caught faster. She's saying, I'm more important than you. I need security because it's dangerous out there.
For me to allow that. So if I end up spending $200,000, if I spend 10 more dollars on it, you know what? I get to be here to do the work. So suck it up, and defunding the police has to happen. We need to defund the police.
Former Congresswoman Cori Bush's husband has been indicted on 2 federal counts of wire fraud. According to court documents, Courtney Merritt filed fraudulent applications seeking pandemic funds, one with the Small Business Administration in 2020 and another 2021 under the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program.
So he's doing PPP loan scams while his wife is serving as a House representative. And as she's paying him to do security, which is his job anyway. This just happened. I think it was last week, maybe a couple of days ago, I don't know. But this is the husband of a House representative who wants to get rid of police but wants to have her own security. You don't need security, she does. He's doing COVID scams, COVID loan scams, taking PPP loans. And now he's going to jail. Good. She should be brought up on charges. If that money went into a bank account with her name on it, she needs to be brought up on charges because government officials are supposed to be held to a higher standard. You can't have a criminal in your house married to you doing this and you don't benefit. You didn't benefit at all, Cori Bush? Not at all.
Fine, the DOJ says those applications allowed him to collect more than $20,000 in government funds. U.S. Attorney and former Missouri Republican Party Chair Ed Martin announced the indictment.
The government can give money to...
All right, we're past that now. So now we're going into Doge. That woman, I swear. All of those people, these are government officials. These people are whatever. We're going to go back now into Doge, and we're going to talk about Doge. That's where the rest of the slide is, I believe, most of it.
To a so-called nonprofit with very few controls, and then there's no auditing subsequently of that nonprofit. So there's no. So this is with the $1.9 billion to Stacey Abrams. they then give themselves extremely lavish, like insane salaries, expense everything to the nonprofit, buy jets and homes and all sorts of things.
Live like kings and queens.
Yes.
On the taxpayer dime.
Correct.
You mentioned...
And this is happening at scale. It's not just one or two. We're seeing this everywhere.
They're very, very, very upset at President Trump. And
John
they're
Kennedy
very, very, very upset at Elon Musk. President Trump ran for president on a number of issues. One of the issues he ran on, he said it almost every day. He said, if you elect me president, I'm going to go through the entire budget and review all the spending, line by line. If I heard him say that once, I heard.
And I've been saying this the whole time.
He went out and appointed, through an executive order, Elon Musk, who some people like him, some don't, but he's not a dummy. He's a very successful business person. He's got a top secret security clearance. President Trump issued an executive order, and he turned to Mr. Musk, and he said, Mr. Musk, I want you to do for me what I said I was going to do in the election. I want you to go through all the spending, line by line. Now, let me ask you something, Mr. President. How are you going to review the spending without reviewing the spending? How are you going to audit the spending by an agency without auditing the agency? That's what I mean when I say common sense is illegal in Washington, D.C. That's what Mr. Musk is doing. He's put together a crackerjack team, and they're going through everybody's spending line by line, item by item. And my Democratic colleagues are very, very, very upset. And they've been very eloquent. They've talked about the process, and President Trump's executive order supposedly violates the Constitution. And they've accused Mr. Musk of having conflicts of interest. And so I've heard people say he's sitting over there with a notepad copying down everybody's Social Security number, and he's going to go use it to make money. I mean, people in this town, not just my Democratic colleagues, they're really upset. They've never said anybody question their spending. But that's what Mr. Musk is doing. But you know, I've listened. People have been screaming like they're part of a prison riot. Oh, my God, look at what Musk is doing. He's looking at the spending. And I've listened to people talk about the process and debate whether it's constitutional and discuss how many lawyers can dance on the head of a pin. But you know what? I haven't heard one single person who's upset with President Trump or Mr. Musk talk about what he's found. They don't want to talk about the spending porn, the waste of taxpayer money that he's found. I mean, that's the point of all this. I tell you who is interested, the American people, the people in America who get up every day and go to work and obey the law and pay their taxes and try to educate their kids and try to do the right thing by their kids and try to save a little money for retirement, and have had to live through 20% inflation under President Biden. They understand what Musk is doing. They understand spending porn and wasting taxpayer money. Now, Mr. Musk started with the USAID. That handles a lot of foreign aid for America. American people are very generous.
You'll notice. So now this right here is crazy. This chart that he's about to show is crazy. This is about illegal aliens and money. And this is what they've started finding through Social Security. They started looking through the IRS and Social Security. Just think about this. Listen to what they're saying.
There's a strange trend here where how many Social Security numbers were issued? Do you want to?
Yeah. So let me tell you what happened here. We started at the top of the system.
You want to talk about a lot of it?
We started at the top of the system, mapping the whole system of Social Security to understand where all the fraud was. And there's a lot of great people there that showed us really a lot of waste. And so that came up with a big list of stuff that we're.
So they're consulting with employees there that they trust, obviously. So this is part of the reason why they ask, what do you do? What did you do last week? To find out if anybody's doing anything. And then they can get a good gauge of who knows what's going on. And then they have those people help them figure out waste.
Yeah, and you've heard some of that already, but this is what jumped out at us. When we saw these numbers, we were like, what is this? In 21, you see 270,000 people goes all the way to 2.1 million in 24. These are non-citizens that are getting Social Security numbers.
Yeah, this is a mind-blowing chart.
Yeah, just this literally blew us away. Like we.
Go back just a little bit so you can hear what he just said. There it is.
Non-citizens that are getting Social Security numbers.
Yeah, this is a mind-blowing chart.
Yeah, just this literally blew us away. Like we went there to find fraud, and we found this by accident.
By accident.
And this isn't political, by the way. My parents are immigrants. Yeah, this country's been great to us. My brother and sister all born in Spain. I'm pro-legal immigration. This is not political. This is not political. This is about America and the future of America. And there are a lot of good people in the system that pointed this in this direction. I want to honor them right now, that work in the government today, who took risks to show us these numbers and tell us what's going on.
Now, I need you guys to think about this because we keep hearing how they can't vote, they can't do certain things. But if you have a Social Security number in this country, you can do anything. Anything. You can get a state ID, and you have a Social Security number. You have all the rights of a United States citizen. The number of people that they gave away citizenship to without doing it technically, they gave them Social Security numbers. Look at this.
Yeah. So I want to stop for a minute. I want to honor those people today. Very good people. Very good people. I have been from D.C. to Social Security offices to the border to track this down, and very good people have helped us along the way. I want to thank them.
Yeah.
This number, what this is when you come in the country, if you're illegal, there's a couple ways to come in. You come in through a port of entry, and you can tell them you're afraid, and they'll give you an asylum case. You'll get an interview, then you get in. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to just go to the border. Literally, this happened. I talked to Border Patrol myself. Elon was there too. I went to Laredo, and I went to Bronzeville. Elon went to Eagle Pass. You walk up to a Border Patrol officer, and you tell them you want to come in. They have a couple of choices. They could charge you with a misdemeanor or a felony under 1325, or they can make it an administrative offense, like a parking ticket, basically. They were told to do that, make it an administrative offense under the last administration. And then you go walk across the border, they do what's called a release from your own recognizance, and they give you an NTA, a notice to appear, which to appear to judge. The wait times on judges are like average 6 years. Look at Grok, you'll see it on immigration judges. There's only 700 of them. This
average 6-year wait. So they're just letting everyone in and say, you need to show up to court in 6 years. And giving them Social Security numbers while they wait. Listen to this.
This is 5.5 million people, okay?
5.5
so what happens
million
then?
People.
Once you're in the country and you got asylum through one of these pathways, and we map the whole thing out, you can apply for a work document.
So before I move on from that, these crazy people, 5 million people were given this privilege. This is why when you would watch the news, and they would, especially when they were talking about, they were talking about Ohio, and the journalists kept saying, yeah, but they're here legally. No, they're not. Biden made them legal by doing that, what we just saw. Giving them a Social Security number, allowing them to work, giving them a notice to show up to court 6 years from now. Don't know who they are, don't know anything about them. They essentially got a ticket. And we did that for 12 to 15 million people. 5 million of them got Social Security numbers. Remember this. Remember this live. I try to give you guys information that you probably haven't heard. Because I don't think people realize the scope of damage that the last administration did. And that what the Democrats are doing right now, I think, is disgusting. And look, this is their behavior. Look at them. Those are toy cars, toy Teslas.
Come on, bring it on! Bring it on!
I feel very, very sorry for you. He's just a little man. Little man. You know what? Good for you. Just about. I'm sorry. We need you out of the road, please.
What they're saying, repeating shame over, is that he bought a car, and they don't like the person who made the car. They had nothing to do with him. He just bought a car. When that car came out, when the Cybertruck came out, there was a wait line for it, a full wait list. You didn't wait in line to get this truck. Thousands of people have this truck, hundreds of thousands, maybe. I don't know how many people have it. But he bought a car. He didn't buy the person making the car. And they're yelling, shame, shame, shame. My last live I showed they're vandalizing these people's cars. The left right now is pitting American against American to fight their war, or whatever this is. Elon Musk has nothing to do with that man driving down the street in his car. It's an ugly car. I hear it's really nice on the inside. I hear it's a really nice truck. I just don't like how it looks. But I don't have the right to go yell at somebody and scream in their window and threaten them and key their car because I don't like who made the car. They are pitting Americans against Americans. This is why I'm going in the order that I'm going in. In the last live, I talked about psyops. Absolutely, it's brainwashing. Miss Juicy Fruit, what's going on? How you doing? Long time no see. Long time. This is a psyop. The federal government has figured out a way on the left to pit people, Americans against Americans. It used to be them fighting against Republicans. Democrats, Republicans, blah, blah, blah. They're very similar now, so it's not that big of a war. But now they've gotten American citizens to attack other American citizens based on what they consume. So if they choose McDonald's, we hate McDonald's now, and you go buy a burger and you're walking down the street with a burger, they can attack you now because you bought that from McDonald's. We don't like that. What's that got to do with me? I don't care. Shame, shame. That's what we're doing now? You buy a pair of shoes, you can't wear it anymore? Based on who? This is what they're doing. This is what they're doing. This is wild that more people aren't saying, whoa, we need to relax. This is too much.
You're a fucking traitor to the United States. You're
Traitor.
falling apart.
I don't know if you guys remember John Cleese's video that I played in my last live where he said you gotta pick a side, you make the other side evil, and then it justifies your behavior. No matter what you do, it's okay because the other side is evil. You just call that guy an American traitor, a traitor to America because he's driving a car. He didn't do anything. He didn't burn a flag. He didn't protest the war. He's a traitor because he's driving a car that he bought before this guy yelling at him. He's right around here on your screen. Before this guy was mad about that car, the guy already had the car. He just so happens to have it now, so you're a traitor to your country.
Your truck's falling apart. Fucking traitor.
These people are crazy. They're booing a car. They're acting like he's Elon Musk. Why do you hate this American who's just driving his own car?
Isn't it shocking how much violence and hatred is coming from the left?
Look at these people.
I mean, isn't it supposed to be the party that they claim to be the party of empathy, and yet they're burning Teslas and shooting up dealerships and calling for the death of the president and me? I'm like, guys, you know, this is insane. Like they're gone psycho. It was inevitable that at least a few Soros operatives would be in the audience. Give my regards to George.
It's a key.
And if you notice, that it's all so. There's just three factions that have come together now. There's three factions of psychosis. You have the older people. So these are people who were hippies back in the day, and they were protesting Vietnam, and they went through the 70s and early 80s, complained about everything. They're hippies. They don't like humanity. So they used to call them tree huggers back in the day. You have them, and you sprinkle in Antifa, because those are the ones who actually start blowing stuff up and destroying stuff. You have them, and then you sprinkle in more government bureaucrats who just lost their jobs. And now you have a weird stew of criminals, old people, and unemployed people who have nothing better to do. And this is what they do. They just destroy. And you have half of them dancing, yelling, war is evil and peace to all the trees and whatever. And you have the other half who are destroying cars and keying other people's property. And it's really, really bad. It's a combustible situation because you have groups like the Proud Boys, who everyone hates. They're white supremacists. I did a live on them and proved that they're not white supremacists. At least not all of them. There may be some in there. I'm sure at where I work, there's a racist person. So I don't want to say, there's no racist people here. There's no racist people there. I'm sure there may be, whatever. But they would not follow an Afro-Cuban man into war. So you have this group called the Proud Boys, who are led by an Afro-Cuban man who was pardoned, which is awesome, who will step in and say, Antifa, you're no longer going to stand in front of this Tesla place. Leave. Well, what if we don't leave? Okay, well, then it's going to be a fight. And they would just start fighting. You're going to have an opposite reaction to this stuff. Can't stop it. Which side is good? Which side is bad? It depends on your opinion. But when you have people destroying stuff, you're going to, at some point, have vigilante justice, which ended up being the Proud Boys. And they try to put them away forever. I'm just glad that they're out.
Sir, we see it on the video.
It's not a key.
Did you? Is it a swastika?
I was probably putting my keys in my pocket.
Is it a swastika?
Have you looked at your car? Is there a key
yes.
mark?
Is it a swastika?
That's impossible.
It's at the police right now. It's being fingerprinted.
This guy keyed a swastika onto the guy who's holding the camera's car. And apparently people on Facebook found him. And he's sitting there, no, I was just putting my keys in my pocket. They have cameras on there, idiot. You're on video.
What do you mean it's being fingerprinted?
Because they're trying to track you down. Thankfully, Facebook tracked you down. So your business, your freaking livelihood, everything now.
Listen,
because you chose to write so to tell Facebook that you're sorry for writing a swastika on a Tesla.
Listen,
idiot.
I said, I'm sorry.
For what?
And I
For what?
apologize.
For what?
I have nothing against
For
your
what?
car, and I have nothing against you.
So why
Okay?
did you write a swastika on a Tesla?
Obviously, I have something against Elon Musk, but that's not the
So
way
Elon
to show
Musk
my...
owns that car because
No,
it was
he
bought
owns
and
the
paid
company.
for. It was bought and paid for a long time
That's
ago.
why it's misguided, and obviously, I did not intend to do this.
All right,
sir.
we're gonna wait for the.
So I mentioned earlier, Proud Boys. You heard January 6th brought up earlier, and I said I got something on January 6th. This came out the other day. I want you guys to watch this. So this is Capitol Police, and you're going to see the guy with the ski mask on is supposedly one of the January 6th attackers. I want you to pay attention to this. So he's got on his helmet. Police have him. He's clearly in handcuffs, right? What are they doing? All right. They just took his handcuffs off. You can see his hand. Why did they take his handcuffs off? What's going on, John Thompson? Why did they take his handcuffs off? But this gets really, really, really interesting. Watch what he does. You know what? I'll go back and play this again just so you guys can see it better. I'll make it a little bit larger. Watch what he does. I don't know. I'm old, but we used to call that a fist bump. You don't do that with somebody who's trying to destroy democracy, threat to democracy, who's rioting in the Capitol. Why would he fist bump him? That's kind of weird. Why did they take the handcuffs off of him? Let's go back. I want to show you guys this again because this is important. It seems insignificant, but when you hear how they talk about January 6th and how horrible it was and it was a threat to democracy and these people need to be locked up in prison forever, who started it? Who broke down those barricades? You remember that guy who was inciting? That's what they said Trump did. He was inciting the violence. We're going to go into the Capitol. We're going to fight now. This is all psyops. Make this bigger. And I want you to watch this so-called criminal, this traitor to his country, and how he's being treated by Capitol Police. Let's see. Let's take off these handcuffs. Handcuffs off. All right. One of them's off. Fist bump. Is that what we do? Is that what we do? Is that what we do to traitors? Where's he going? Where's he going? That's one of those evil rioters on January 6th. This is why they didn't want to release the footage, by the way. But where's he going? They just let him go? They just let a rioter go? Why did the Capitol Police let that guy go? Why did they fist bump him? Why was he in handcuffs if he's one of them?
Basically.
That weird? Is that weird to you? I think that's a little. When I saw this, I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. I can't take anyone serious who talks about January 6th. Andre Dubb and I did a full live on it. I can't take anyone serious who still believes that was not, I won't say fully orchestrated, but it wasn't incited by our federal government. I don't take you seriously at all. Anyone who believes that was an attack on democracy and a threat and all that nonsense, I don't take you seriously. You don't know enough about the topic to even have a conversation with me about it. And if you want to learn, we can have a conversation about it because I got footage for days that prove that this was incited by the inside, and it's not even debatable anymore. You're looking at a rioter, right about here on your screen. You're looking at a rioter get fist bumped by the police. How do I know he's a rioter? Because he's in handcuffs. And they just let him go. Why? Why is he being let go? Fist bump. Good job, sir. Good job. Yeah, we got enough of them in there. All right, go on about your way. Go back to the office, Bob. That's what we're looking at here. How is that not treason? They used January 6th to impeach a man after he was out of office to try to get him to not do this, what he's doing right there. Get back in office. That's how scared they were of this man. What's going on, Taryn? That's how scared they were of this man. So now we're going to hear a little bit about tariffs before we get out of here.
I call April 2nd. I would have made it April 1st, but I didn't want to be April Fool's Day because then nobody would believe what I said. And they do believe me. April 2nd is going to be Liberation Day for America.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's April 2nd. Happy Liberations Day. That's today. That's why I'm live right now.
We've been ripped off by every country in the world, friend and foe. We've been ripped off on trade. We've been ripped off on military. We protect people, and they don't do anything for us. It's just so unfair for years and years. And now some of that money is going to be coming back to us in the form of tariffs. I mean, tens of billions. It's going to be numbers like nobody's ever seen. So NVIDIA announced today, you saw that, hundreds of billions of dollars of investment. The biggest chip maker in the world announced hundreds of billions of dollars of investment. Hundreds of billions, not millions, but billions. They're all coming here. Apple just announced $500 billion worth. They're going to build plants here. You know, they built their plants in China. They're going to build them here. And they're starting immediately. We have investment, the likes of which this country has never seen, already announced. And they all want to have news conferences. I don't have enough time to have that many news conferences, but I would say so far at least $4 trillion. $4 trillion is coming in. Car companies, very importantly, a lot of the car companies that were going to build in Mexico or Canada are now building here. Because I don't want cars from Canada. I don't want cars from Mexico. They want to do it, it's fine. But I want the car companies to build here, not, you know, they were building in Mexico 3 plants, big plants, really big plants, and they were going to sell the cars right across the border. We wouldn't have the jobs, we wouldn't have the profits, we wouldn't get the taxes, we get nothing. All we get is unemployment and empty factories. Those days are over. So now those 3 places are going to build here, but many more than that. We have a big one. Honda is building, just announced a really big plant in Indiana, great state. Awesome. Smart place to build. And we have many car companies coming here. The steel mills are going to be booming, And many other things, you know, many other things come with that. But we need that for defense. You know, there are certain things you have to have. You have to have steel. We would have had, if I didn't do in my first term tariffs to stop the onslaught, because they were dumping steel in order to destroy our steel plants. If I didn't do 50% and even 100% in certain cases tariffs on steel, you wouldn't have a steel plant in the United States. And Biden was unable to get rid of those tariffs because they threw off so much money that his numbers, which didn't work anyway, because his numbers were terrible, what he did, the way he spent money was so horrible, and what he allowed to happen to energy. That's the other thing. Energy is going to be like it's never been before.
A number of industries have come to you asking for exemptions on tariffs. Is that something that is under consideration by you?
Well, people are coming to me and talking about tariffs, and a lot of people are asking me if they could have exceptions. And once you do that for one, you have to do that for all. So, I mean, generally, I did something interestingly during 2 weeks ago. I gave the American car companies a break because it would have been unfair if I didn't. And everybody said, oh, he changed his mind on tariffs. I didn't change my mind. I helped our, you know, sort of big 3, big 4. I helped some of the American companies. And instead of taking it properly, they said, oh, he changed it. I don't change, but the word flexibility is an important word. Sometimes there's flexibility, so there'll be flexibility, but basically it's reciprocal, so that if China's charging us 50% or 30% or 20%, and I don't mean China, I mean anybody, any country, Canada. Nobody knows that Canada's charging our dairy farmers. They have 270% tariffs. Nobody knows that. Nobody knows that.
So all he's saying when he talks about reciprocation and reciprocal is, whatever you're charging our companies, we're going to charge your companies. You have 50% tariff on, I don't know, pens, on ink pens. So that means you're charging our companies to import those pens or export those pens. We're going to do the same thing to you on something similar. It's just fairness. It's basic business. You got to be fair. You can't keep charging our companies money to send to your country, but we can't do it when you send stuff to ours. You can't. And that's all he's doing, and people are going crazy, talking about it's going to destroy the country. It's not. It really is not.
They have up to 400%. They have a couple of tariffs at 400%. Nobody knows that. Nobody talks about that. And remember, with Canada, we don't need their cars. We don't need their lumber. We don't need their energy. Nope. We don't need anything from Canada. And yet it costs us $200 billion a year in subsidy to keep Canada afloat. So when I say they should be a state, I mean that. I really mean that. Because we can't be expected to carry a country that is right next to us on our border. It would be a great state. It would be a cherished state. The taxes for Canadian citizens would go down in less than half. They don't spend money on military because they think we're going to protect them. There are many things that they do, like icebreakers. They want us to provide icebreakers for them. Oh, that's wonderful. But Canada has been a very nasty negotiator against the United States, took advantage of the United States for a long time. But nobody knows that they were getting 270% tariffs on dairy products.
Hold on, look what they're mad that Trump's doing this whole tariff thing. Canada slaps tariffs on flamethrowers, manatee meat, fake beards, and live monkeys in response to Trump's tariffs. That's what they have to offer us. So when he talks about tariffs, really what he's doing is calling for everyone to be fair. And he's saying, Taryn, you selling comics. You're selling your comic books. You create these comic books and you're selling them to Canada. That's fine. But Canada's saying, whoa, Taryn, in order to sell your product here, you gotta give us a cut. You gotta break us off some. You can't just sell your stuff here. And they charge you. So what Trump is saying, hey, Taryn, how about you sell them here? Don't worry about Canada. Sell them here. Make them here. Make money here. And by the way, Canada, John Thompson, you're Canadian. If you got comics that you want to sell to us, we're going to charge you the same thing that Canada was charging Trump. That's all he's doing. That's all he's doing. And the world is up in, they don't understand it. They don't understand it. Because he said he lost him on his tariff rate. The mindset is that they think it's going to hurt us by being fair because we have a competitive edge over everyone in the world. So when Trump starts talking about America first, Rand Paul's all in it, but he doesn't see the impacts of what it's doing to businesses. And I guarantee you he's got interest in some of the businesses that are going to be impacted most by the tariffs. That's what it is. It's got to be. There's no reason for him to be so adamant against it. There's no reason for it. So that's what it is. That's all I really have for you guys today. I want to do a hip hop live. So if you're into hip hop music and culture, I literally had Andre Dub join this live just so he could hear my intro earlier. I would love to have a live just on speaking on music, and I'll play music. And if you have a lyricist that you think is better than some of the ones that I have, we could play the music. I really, really, really want to do that. It's completely different outside of what I do, but that's who I am. And I've heard people say that my music doesn't always match the content. I don't care. It's who I am. So I want to do that. Maybe tonight, probably tomorrow afternoon. I want to do that because I really want to have that conversation. I think I've been hearing a lot about music and battles and all this stuff. I would love to have a music discussion. Anyway, with that said, what's going on, Uncle L? Good. That would be cool. I don't know. The music that I'm hearing, like Drake just dropped something and everybody's making a big deal. I'm listening to it. I'm like, this is not good. But you hear people saying, that it's a real, it's a good throwback. And I'm like, it's really bad. It's really not. It's really not. And I'm just from a different era, and I grew up on something completely different. And I want to have that conversation. So I'm going to do that. It'll probably go straight to private after the live, but I still want to have a conversation with people. So if you guys are interested in that, you'll see me. I'm going to schedule it sometime later on today for tomorrow, most likely tomorrow. I don't know. When the boys get home, I can't do anything. So yeah, I just want to talk some hip hop. And if you have some artists that you want to hear, we can play them. Hopefully, if they're available on YouTube, I'll play it directly off their page. Like I said, it's not going to be able to stay up because of copyright reasons. But I want to have that conversation. I think that would be a really good one. With that said, that's all I really have for today. I appreciate you all. Taryn, thank you for stopping by. Miss Phoenix Rising, Uncle L, John Thompson, Miss Juicy Fruit, welcome. That was so cool to see you stop by today. Free J, as always, thank you. Paul, appreciate you, sir. Thank you. Miss Trupac, thank you. Kiss My Cheeks, appreciate you for stopping by today. Roll Rich was in here today. That was really cool. Dan Tana, appreciate you. Andre W, as always, appreciate you, sir. Who else was in? I think I got everybody. Vibing on my lane. What's going on? Welcome back. G Will was in here. Appreciate you, sir. I believe that's everybody. So yes, I appreciate you guys all. If you are watching on Rumble, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. That would be awesome. Let me put these links in here. If you're watching on Rumble, subscribe to this channel. Catcher Jagger, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Appreciate you. If you're watching here on YouTube, to all the YouTube people, follow me on Rumble. If you have a platform on YouTube, you really should get on Rumble. There's no reason to not do it. Otherwise, like, subscribe, and share. Oh, my Twitter, my X account. Follow me on X. Please, let's do that. And oh, if you would like to provide a fresh wind, if you'd like to donate to the channel, let's see. This is the Cash App. That would be awesome. It would be greatly appreciated. If you can, you can't. Don't matter. It's not. It's very, very, very highly respected, but it's not a requirement to be here. I don't look at support as that. So with that said, I'm going to play that blues version of ATLiens one more time because I really, really love that version. Big Boy posted it on his IG, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's a great, great, great outro. With that said, I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. Let's listen to some Outkast via blues.
Well, it's the M.I. crooked letter. Ain't no one better. And when I'm on the microphone, you best to wear a sweater. Cause I'm cooler than a polar bear toenail. Oh, hell. There we go again, talking shit. Bend corners like a curve. I struck a nerve. Now you about to see the Southern player serve. I heard it's not where you're from, but where you pay rent. And I heard it's not what you make, but how much you spent. You got me bent like elbows amongst other things, but I'm not worried.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to
when I
offend you.
step up in the
I'm
party
sorry.
like a mouse, you
Okay,
scurry. So go get your fucking shine box and your sack of nickels.
Now go home and get your fucking shine box.
Motherfucking you fucking piece of shit. That is fat sex, B-I-G-B-O-I. Is that same motherfucker that took them knuckles to your eye? And I tried to warn you not to test, but you didn't listen. Giving a shout out to my Uncle Darnell locked up in prison. Yeah. Now throw your hands in the air and wave them like you just don't care. And if you like fish and grits and all that pimp shit, everybody let me hear you say